Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Detour podcast. Now this one is a fascinating chat. It's one-on-one with a good mate of mine, Sam Bewley. Now Sam Bewley I've known since obviously the Green Edge days. What are we talking? 2012. Did a podcast with Sam, The Social Distance, with George Bennett as well. We haven't done a social distance show since Feb last year, so we talk about that. But the reason why I wanted to bring Sam on is he's the head sports director at NSN. It was a very tough Giro for them. They didn't come away with a stage. But what I wanted to pick his brain about is how does that process work? Obviously, you go into a Giro with high ambitions, and what happens now when it doesn't quite go to plan? And how do you deal with like modern age cycling? I mean, budgets obviously come into it, but how do you deal with the younger generation and get the most out of them? They've obviously got the Tour de France coming up as well. So we dive into a lot of stuff, and you'll hear in the show, I'm fascinated at how articulate Sam is now. He's come a long way from the Social Distance podcast days, but it's a lot of fun, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Bit of housekeeping. As we always say, the support that you guys give this podcast means a lot. We've recently launched our social membership packages. Want to send a big shout out to Sally of our members, who was the first to sign up. You're an absolute legend. Really appreciate your support. And we're in the process of pulling together some giveaways that we're going to be launching during the Tour de France, just to say thank you. So there's a number of different packages there where you can do a recurring sign up each month, which is $5, or you can do a yearly package, which is $60. Also on the website, you'll see that we've launched a shop, so you can get in and purchase Detour apparel. Andrew Livingston is gone to work on this, put a lot of time at putting together different items. And again, any of the items that you like, that does support the show. So we really appreciate everything you've been doing to support the Detour since relaunch. And if anyone has any inquiries, if you want to shoot us an email, you can at any time. info@thedetour.online, and we'll get back to any inquiries. We've got a few things in the works, but as I said, appreciate the support. So tell your mates that the Detour's back live. I've got another big chat coming up with Michael Matthews. He's obviously been through quite a bit lately with his crash coming back. So we're going to have a really fascinating chat with him. And then we've got some other big names lined up next week. Again, appreciate the support. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. And enjoy the chat with Sam Bewley. Joined by my old sparring mate on podcast. Do you have to dust off the old mic, Bills? How's it feel to have the podcast mic out in the headphones?
I couldn't even find it. I had to dig it out of a cupboard somewhere. It's been like, what,
the last social distance we did was Feb last year.
Yeah. Oh, we're just on a bit of a break.
Yeah. How many people have come up to you saying, when's Social Distance podcast coming back?
Oh, they've given up. But when I was at Down Under, I got it a lot. Like,
yeah,
when's the pod coming back? And I said, oh, soon. It'll be back. That was 5 months ago.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean,
you never know. And as we said, if we ever did just fire things up again, we'd talk like, oh, we had 2 weeks off. So welcome back to the social distance, like nothing's changed.
Exactly.
That could still happen. But mate, one of the key differences from when we used to do the pods to now is, mate, you are flat out. What's life like now in your role at NSN as head sports director?
It's busy now. Yeah, so I've taken on a bit of a new role this year where I'm obviously still directing. I still do a lot of days in the race car, and I've got a couple of races coming up. I go to Brussels Classic this weekend, then Tour of Belgium, and then I'm leading the Tour de France. So a busy period. So still doing a lot of directing, obviously, as my main job. But now I'm involved a bit more with the sporting management side of the team. So driving the long-term direction of the team. Focusing on areas that we need to rebuild or strengthen. So it's a lot more. It's a shitload of meetings, actually, Jonesy. I'm always on phone calls and always on meetings. And then
KPIs. Have you got a few KPIs, Sam? They love KPIs in meetings.
we don't really use them,
that.
and I guess we informally use them. Yeah. But I've never been asked. I've never that specific word or phrase has never been really used too much, but they do exist. But no, it's busy, Jonesy. It's full on. Been away quite a bit recently. I was in Tenerife last week we got a few of our guys up there getting ready for the Tour de France. So I was up there for a week with them. I was in the UK just before that doing some professional development, I guess you call it, with some football clubs, and so I'm doing a little bit of everything at the moment. It's busy times.
When you say professional development with football clubs, is that going in, because they do that in AFL here? They go see other sports, how they operate. Is it picking the brains of other codes, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It was basically Premier League football have a program where they put all their academy coaches through this program. I think I don't know how long it goes for, maybe a year or something. There's like 7 or 8 different workshops. So I joined for their last workshop, which was quite cool, focusing on the athlete's role in coaching and a few different other things. And so yeah, like just kind of immersed myself in the football world for a little bit, and then we spent a day with canoe racing UK, which was good. So learn a bit from how they operate and their debrief systems and their way of coaching and their feedback and how they give it and when they give it. So yeah, it was quite cool. There's obviously cycling world so far apart from these centralized sports where they all go back to the same training ground every day, or they they can go and after a game they go back to the training ground and sit in a room and debrief it all together. Whereas we jump on a plane and one flies to Spain and one flies to France and one flies to Belgium and one flies to Canada. So it's very different to a non-centralized sport that we have, but still plenty of good little nuggets to take away. And then we went whitewater rafting actually, which was good.
Oh, do you have flashbacks to New Zealand,
mate? So we got in the raft, and at least when we did it in New Zealand, the guys, we did it with like the guns, So we got in this raft, and it was on one of those whitewater parks, those like stadium ones that they do with the canoe racing on, and the guide was like, all right, so we're just going to go down the first time, just go down super easy. You guys will be a lot of just sitting in the boat, not paddling, just so you can understand what it's like and learn the river a little bit, and then we'll do like 5 or 6 different runs, and we'll increase the intensity, and then we'll have a bit of fun later on. But the first one is just getting down safely so you can see it. Mate, we got to the first rapid, I went straight out the front of the boat, and then we got to the next rapid, and I was swimming to the side of climbed up these rocks, and I looked back, and there was 3 other dudes floating downstream, and then the guy came over with the boat. We all climbed back in the boat, but then he got it stuck, so he couldn't get it out of this eddy. So we're just going round and round and round and round in circles. Then eventually we get going, and then we hit the next waterfall, which was the biggest one, but still not that big compared to the one at home in New Zealand. And then we went over this waterfall, and I was at the front of the boat, and I just saw the guide just go straight over the top of me and straight into the water. So the guide was in the water. We're the only ones in the boat. And then it just carried on like that. I fell out every single time. Boat was slipping, guide was falling out.
When you see the guide go, that's when you go, oh, shit.
At that point, you're better off in the water.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's fascinating. I want to know, other sports like cycling, in that it's completely changed, particularly how you deal with feedback, younger riders. I watch a lot of the content behind the scenes now, and it feels like old school days, man. If you weren't getting results or whatever, there was a little bit more of a harder edge approach. Like, guys, we need lift or whatever. It really doesn't feel like that side of things is dying out. It's got to be a more softly. Is that how it's going, or is it, how do you navigate the changes?
Yeah, a little bit, I suppose. Maybe that's what we're missing, that hard-edged approach a bit more at times. But it is a little bit more, I guess the way that we try to operate in our team is like when someone needs a kick up the arse when it's relevant, then don't get me wrong, they get a kick up the arse. But there's also this kind of approach of like, why before the kick up the arse, it's like a bit of reflection across our group and the coaching group, the performance group, like why are they underperforming?
Yeah.
And what can we do differently, or what have we missed as a performance group that can improve those performances, whether it's across an individual or whether it's across a team. So there's a bit of that. There's a bit more self-reflection or reflection on the performance group to see if we can understand why there's been an underperformance. So there's a lot more of that happening. And we're always looking at how do we, because every athlete's different. Some athletes respond really well to kick up the arse and some don't. Some need to be more softly spoken to. And at the end of the day, we're trying to tap into these individuals and try to tap into these athletes and get the best out of them. So it's not like a blanket approach, because a blanket approach doesn't work. It might get the best out of 50% of the team, but not out of the other 50% of the team. So it's about trying to understand what approaches needs to be taken with each individual athlete to get the best out of them, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So, obviously, if a rider just hasn't been training and they're not motivated, or they're pissed off because they've been taken to a race they didn't want to go to, then that's a different story. That reflects massively on the athlete more than anybody else. But if it's a motivated athlete who's put the work in and they go to a race and they don't meet expectations or they underperform, then the initial response is to look into why that might have happened and what we've missed. Whether it's from a nutritional standpoint, a body composition, a training, was it not enough altitude, too much altitude? Did the sports directors not tap into the athlete enough? Were they not inspiring? Were they not motivating? Was the strategy sound, or was the strategy off? So we reflect more on the external factors that could have delivered that underperformance, rather than just jumping straight to a sort your fucking shit out, mate.
Geez, I was going to say, your development, mate. You could never articulate a couple of sentences like that on the social distance. You've improved in a year and a half. Far out.
I still had to chuck a F word in there though, just to try to level myself out.
Yeah, I can tell your brain's going, hang on, I'm playing a character.
I felt real uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, but it's fascinating because you do give a rider a kick up the arse if it's basically they're the break. You've identified they're the break in the chain. Yeah, if it's stuff that they haven't done or not motivated or whatever. But then again, they're all assets. Yeah. Do you sort of look at it like we've invested in these riders? They are an asset to the team. They need to be managed. So if it is a rider that's struggling for motivation or whatever, well, then it would be hard to motivate someone by just blasting him. Is that the hardest line to juggle?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, like I say, some athletes respond to that. And so you can take it a bit more of a hardline approach, but there's obviously many athletes that don't respond to that. And like you say, Jonesy, like these guys are all assets. We only have 30 riders or 29 riders that we're dealing with, and 29 riders in a team sounds like a lot, but you'd be surprised at how quickly you start running thin when you have really, really busy race schedules, and then you factor in the fact that you have 3 or 4 guys out injured and 2 or 3 guys out with illness. You're quickly dealing with 22, 23 riders and you need every single one of them to cover a race period. For example, now is like we've just finished a Giro. Now we're at Tour of Wallonie, and then we've got the Dauphiné or whatever it's called now that overlaps with Tour of Swiss, which overlaps with Tour of Belgium. So that's 21 riders already that you need to utilize. So we can't afford to not invest in the athlete and try to get the best out of them. And to get the best out of them, you need to understand them, and you need to understand why we're not, which takes time as well, especially with new riders. Like for example, Benny, he's in our team now, huge asset, our biggest asset. He's preparing for the Tour de France, but he's a completely new athlete to us. He's come from a different team. He stepped into our environment, which is a very different environment to what he's been accustomed to when he was at Intermarché. So he's learning us as much as we're learning him, and when you're going through that learning process, you have to expect that sometimes things don't always go the way you want. But the response can't just be simply that, like, oh, that was a shit performance. The response needs to be like, okay, he's a new athlete. We're still trying to understand him. He comes from a culture that none of us know. So we're trying to understand all of that stuff, and everything's a bit of a learning. Okay, at a certain point, if in 3 years' time, if it's not working out with an athlete, then you have to start asking questions and looking at a change in direction potentially. But while they're in your team, it's our duty to get the best out of them and to learn the athlete and understand all that stuff.
One thing I was impressed with, mate, was I got to look under the hood with you guys at Cadell's race, obviously this year for Clarkie's last pedal. I was very impressed at your style as a sport director. It was very clear. Everyone knew their role. But I was also more impressed with that vibe you can feel. You can't even like put a finger on it. It's a collection of like what we used to have at Green Edge. It felt like a group of mates going to races, and you could tell they enjoyed each other's company. Is that something that when you're bringing in new riders, you're focusing on? Like, is this person going to be a fit in the bus, and how important is that dynamic?
Oh yeah, massively. Like, it's obviously something that resonates with you and I, Jonesy, the culture piece that was evidently strong in Green Edge for a decade or more. So it's a really important piece of our team as well. It resonates with everybody in our management group, how important culture is, and that's why we're an English speaking team. Obviously, we don't have all native English speakers, but English is the language of our team because we feel like that's the language that can best deliver the culture that we want. We do have a lot of Anglos in there as well, but it's whenever we're looking at a rider to bring in externally, there's always an interview process. Obviously, we look at numbers like everybody else in the world. That's probably the first thing we look at. What's this guy's capacity, and can they deliver what we want from them? So there's a lot of number crunching and analysis that happens first, but then we would never go further without an interview of the rider to try to get a peek under the hood of them and understand them a little bit and see if they would be a cultural fit. So yeah, it is a really important part. And I mean, I guess you spoke to a little bit like what you saw at Cadell Evans race. That was an easy group. That was a super easy group to have a good culture. It was, half the team was Aussies or Kiwi or more. Half the team was Aussies or Kiwis, and the other two were from England.
It was a false insight.
A bit of a false insight. Yeah, you probably got the best one. You probably got the best group. But like it's important because like the thing with culture that's important is you're often asking riders to do something that either they don't want to do or they don't think they can do. And you need to get them on board with doing a job that they may not necessarily want to do, or it's not their preferred option. You need to get them 100% bought into that role and understand why we need them to do that. And then you need to make sure that they believe that they can. Without getting those two things right, then it's very hard to perform, and it's also very hard to develop a culture. So those are the two real key pieces, and that's why I try to be very clear in my pre-race meetings and clear with what the rider roles are, so that it's all out in the open. Everybody understands what we're trying to achieve and why everybody's been designated a certain role, and it also creates accountability. If the role is murky or it's a little bit grey or hazy, it's like, oh, maybe it's this or maybe it's that. Then it's very hard to hold anybody accountable because there was no clarity around what the role was. But if there's clarity and then it's not delivered, then it's it's easier to hold, whether it's the athlete or whether it's the coach or whether it's the DS or whoever it is. It's easier to hold people accountable and to solve problems.
Well, how much does it help? Obviously, you're not too far removed from the sport as a rider yourself, but also being able to draw on, like you said, some riders think they can't do certain roles and it's insurmountable. I go back to your career, and the ride that stands out for me is when Esteban was in the pink jersey. and you were still there with 30 Ks to go with climbers, and you should have been piped 100 Ks earlier. But the power of when you're fully invested, and you could explain to the punters that side of things, but yeah, you must get that being a former rider not too far removed yourself.
Yeah, and it was a mate, a good friend. So if you can develop those relationships, and it's on the management group to grow the culture and develop it and instill the culture, and then it's on the athletes who are really they're the centerpiece of it all. It's on them to really, I guess the management plant the tree and then they water it or something, some shit analogy like that. I don't know. But it makes a big difference when you respect who you're working for, or you really believe in your leader, and you have a strong relationship with them. It's very easy to find that extra little bit, and that was something we always had in Greenwich, with our leaders. There was a high element of respect for all of the leaders that we had in our team across that period. Starting with Gossi, Giro, and then going into Bling and going into Yateses and Esteban and those guys. There's a high level of respect, and they treated the people that were doing the job for them with respect as well, and they pumped them up, and they believed in the people they had around them, and then it was very easy to connect the dots from there.
Now, one thing you said in Cadell's race, which I liked, is you've mapped out the plan. You said, guys, you know better than anyone, I could have a million different plans and strategies. It's a bike race. Different things are going to happen at any given time. Let's talk about the Giro. Obviously, the team going into the Giro would have had clear, crystal ball expectations, how you wanted it to pan out. How do you reflect on the Giro, and what does that sort of review look like for you?
It's an interesting question. We've got a review coming up in a couple of days' time to look at it. I guess the Giro is a really good example of, we went there with high expectations. We wanted to win. We wanted to win stages there. We obviously had Ethan Vernon and we had Corbin Strong as our two primary leaders, based on what we saw of the race. So the stages that suited those guys, there was a number of them. So we tried to build a group around them. And yeah, the reality is we wanted to win a stage there. But we didn't. But reflecting on it a little bit yesterday, and speaking with a couple of the riders, there was some really good learnings from it. And although that doesn't mean that we're not a little bit was disappointed, the word maybe, I don't know, or a little bit, I suppose a little bit disappointed that we didn't win there. This is where it comes back to what I was saying earlier. Now we have to look at why didn't we win? Why didn't we deliver on those particular stages? And there's lots of low-hanging fruit to look at. Our athletes were physically prepared. That was clear. We could see that they were in shape. So you could kind of remove the coaching or the preparation piece pretty quickly from the equation. So then you have to look at execution. You have to look at strategy. You have to look at the vibe in the group, which I believe, I wasn't there, but I understand it was really good. Again, similar group to we had at Cadell, so not that hard to pull off. But yeah, now we have to look under the hood and say, like, okay, so why didn't we win? What was it? Was it did we have the right people there, or we were missing someone in a certain area? All of those little things, and that there will be a relatively long review, and we have to learn from it, and then take it forward and look at how we do things differently in the future if we need to. Also, like you say, Jones, it's bike racing, and there was a shitload of good bike races there, and it was a hard Giro, and it's not the first time that a team's gone to a Grand Tour and not won. It happens.
Yeah, because 20 teams want to win a stage.
Yeah.
But it sort of reminds me of, remember that 2012 Tour de France when we went in there, wanted to win stages with Gossi and win the green jersey. What we didn't plan for is Peter Sagan, like being on the top of his form, and he just smashed it. Felt a bit like that with Corbin Strong and Navarez, like coming in, being on like unbelievable form, where you start going, oh shit, this is going to be tough. And then you add the other element. How how much tougher is it for a team like yours when it comes down to budgets? When it is like Moneyball, where you're trying to get the best out of a group within the constraints that you got?
Mm. I mean,
Or do you
the more
go,
money.
I don't even want to think about excuses with that. You just go, no, this is what we have. This is what I want to focus on, and let's make the best out of that.
Yeah, we don't really think about it. We don't really use it as an excuse. I guess it's. I mean, the more money you have, the better riders you can buy. There's no doubt about that. But we don't really feel like we need to. We have leaders in our team that we believe in, you know, and guys that we want to invest in and build. And you know, we don't. Ethan Vernon doesn't win a bunch sprint stage at the Giro. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden, like, okay, what other sprinter can we bring into the team? You know, we don't, not at all. It's quite the opposite. It's like, okay, we've got to keep Ethan because we see real potential with him and we believe in him. So I get money makes a big difference, of course, but it doesn't mean that we can't be successful, because we know that we have the people in our organization to do it, whether it's the riders or whether it's everybody in the performance group. We've got a lot of smart people in our team. And we just have to tap into it and make the right decisions and continue to grow that culture and that belief in those guys. And man, also at the Giro, like, fuck, sometimes shit just doesn't go your way. Like, you look at stage 18 of the Giro, like if that climb in the final 10K had just been a little bit harder and the gap to the sprinters was 5 seconds or 10 seconds more at the top of the climb, Corbin would have won that stage. Well, most likely would have won that stage. You know, he was in a group of 15 climbers. So there was just sometimes things that shouldn't go away. On stage 2 at the Giro, half of our team hit the deck. You know, half of our sprint group crashed. I mean, Ethan didn't crash, but Corbin crashed. Jake crashed really bad. He had to pull out of the Giro a few days later, and he was a key. Jake was a key piece for Ethan, and so we also had bad luck, and you can't disregard that as well. And sometimes just go, well, the cards just didn't fall our way. But inevitably there'll be something that we could do better. And you'd be a fool if you didn't think that, and you'd be a fool if you didn't look into it, and you'd be a fool if you didn't try to change it.
Yeah. How much is AI playing a role? You would have seen that obviously in the soccer clubs. You know, they're using AI for a lot of strategy and all this sort of stuff. I'm seeing announcements with cycling teams going, we've got a new AI partner. Is that to help with your PowerPoint presentations, or it's actually strategy?
Well, we use it to make like cartoon music videos. Ultimately, is what we use AI for.
Same here. We love it on the Detour, mate. That's it.
No, we do. Yeah, we do use AI. We've actually got like a pretty cool AI platform. We've developed it ourselves. So it's a closed AI network, and it's kind of in some ways still in its infancy, but it's very elaborate. I'm still trying to understand it myself a little bit, but I'm slowly getting there. But we do have quite an intelligent AI system that we use, and we use it a little bit for strategy. Although we've been a little bit reluctant to pull the trigger completely on that yet. But we do use it for strategy. We use it for race roster selections. That helps us. That we're maybe not quite there yet. Like, these are all the things that we probably will be using it for more in depth, and we're kind of just playing with it a little bit at the moment while we understand it and see the impact it has. But I guess in short, to answer your question, yeah, it's going to take over. AI is going to take over professional cycling teams. It's not going to replace people. I don't think that will ever happen, because face-to-face contact and human contact and that type of communication is so important. At least I see communication is probably the biggest pillar in getting the best out of athletes. So it won't replace people, but it's going to add a lot of brain power to our decision making. So it's pretty exciting. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking, if you had all the riders' data plugged in real time, and AI could know the stage, how your riders group are performing, like how they're feeling. Are they like knowing if a rider's 80% because they crashed the day before, it being able to restructure, and also based on the results of other teams, tracking how other teams are going, all that sort of stuff that, as you said, takes manpower. That'd be the exciting part, is taking away the manual stuff and just getting to the point where you have the data in front of you that would normally take hours to pull together. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like man, like the most important thing in as a sports director is like, okay, strategy, making sure your strategy is good. But the most important thing is bringing a group of people together and getting them to like walk off the bus and be like, yeah, right, let's go do it. You know, let's everything
Yeah.
we've planned. Like the plan is in place. The leaders are. We believe in our leaders. We believe in our support riders. Like everybody walks off the bus like smacking helmets together. You know, that's the most powerful thing a sports director can do. But the reality is, we waste so much fucking time on like building PowerPoints and race prep and plugging our race prep into spreadsheets and delivering a pretty little presentation to the riders on the bus. And like, although I believe that stuff's important, and in some ways it's smoke and mirrors, but I believe in smoke and mirrors a little bit, that like, to be professional you need to look professional. So like, okay, you could do a course PowerPoint presentation in half the amount of time if you want it to look like shit, but it's important to me that it looks good. But it is time consuming, and it's not it's not having the biggest impact. It's not. It's all that. Those are all the fringe things that have some form of impact. But in an ideal world, you get to a point where AI can take away all that manual stuff, like you say, plug all that stuff in into a pretty little presentation, and then we can spend most of our time investing and focusing on like the pillars and the real core things that make the big difference.
So get the punters excited then, mate, for leading up the Tour de France. You're obviously going to get AI to crunch all the results from the Giro, plug it in, do your learnings, have your meetings. But what can we expect from NSN leading up to obviously the big one, Buells?
Well, it's a big race for us. It starts in Barcelona, and NSN is a Barcelona company.
Oh, surely you got that Iniesta. He'll be there, won't he?
I'd say there's a good chance. Yeah. I don't know for sure, but I suspect probably. But no, it's a big, obviously a new team. NSN, Barcelona is their home city, so it's going to be a monster of a start for us. And we're probably going to get our heads kicked in the first stage in the team time trial. So that'd be nice. And then the
build up.
No, we won't get our heads kicked in, but it's certainly not our target of the tour. We're going.
I was going to use that as the thumbnail for this episode. We're going to get our heads kicked in. Sam Bewley on the Tour de France.
Exactly. Maybe we should cut that out. The like authenticity is also really important in our world, Jonesy. So
100%.
But no, we're going there with Binny. He's obviously come to our team this year, and he's been performing really well at the start of the year. He's connected well with our guys, and he's it was only a couple of years ago that he won 3 stages at the Tour de France in the green jersey. So there's not really any secrets. There's not really any secrets from us. We want to target the same at the Tour this year with Binny. We want to try to win stages, and we want to focus on the green jersey from the start of the race and put ourselves in a position where we could be the ones that, Binny could be the one who wears it on the Champs-Elysees. So it's not really any secrets. And, we've built a group of riders around Binny for that. We've kept them together for the better part of the season. They've already delivered some good wins with him in sprints. So yeah, that's ultimately what we're going to the Tour for. And we also want to try to be competitive across the whole race. So we won't just have a full eight-man team of sprint lead-out guys, but we'll have some guys for the breakaway stages and things. But ultimately, it's not really a secret when you've got Binny, who's won Tour de France stages in the past, that we want to try and do the same this year.
So I see similarities with Binny and Esteban in that we didn't really have a cult following in the team until he came along and those mad Colombians. Now the Eritreans are one step above that. Like they attract big, passionate crowds. Are you prepared for the onslaught of just the buses, the atmosphere? Are you going to like run with it and milk it? Like maybe get some really good speakers, crank the tunes. Like how are you going to manage that, mate? Because you'll probably need security.
Oh, mate, I reckon we will. I think they've had it at some races this year already. Like the Eritrean fan base is massive. It's massive, and it's real interesting talking to Binny about it. So cycling is actually the biggest sport in Eritrea. I don't know if it's because of Binny, what he's done in the last few years, or whether it was already there.
Dan Tekla was a big one when he had the polka dot at the Tour de France. He had it for 3 days and had a ticker tape parade when he got back. And I was like, I'm looking at the footage. I'm thinking, mate, you had it for 3 days. You didn't win it.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what happened when Binny won the green jersey? He was telling us the other day. So a few months ago, he was telling us he won the green jersey. He went back to Eritrea. There was some ridiculous amount of people that met him at the airport, like 200,000 people or something crazy, or maybe even more, maybe a million people. I can't remember. It was a shitload. It was most of Eritrea. They met him at the airport and they basically carried him to his house, which was like 10K away. And when they got home, they'd given him, they wanted to surprise him and give him a present. So they painted his house green. He's like, I don't want a fucking greenhouse.
That's awesome. It's like those reveal shows. Remember, when they do those makeover shows, and every now and then, one in every 5 eps, they go, surprise! And the couple will go, oh, okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's still green or not, but anyway, it just shows how big it is there. So, and then there's a lot of Eritreans in Europe, and it's going to be like that. And especially if we go to if Iniesta turns up to Barcelona as well, and then the Eritrean fans, like our bus is going to be chaotic. But there's actually lots of similarities with Esteban and Binny, even from like a personality and mindset, like really chilled, really calm, but massively driven by, and they want to win, and they don't leave any stone unturned. Very professional, but on the outside, really chilled, really laid back, like I'll be okay, don't stress. But on the inside, these guys are fucking driven, man. They're like huge, like competitors.
And having guys like that as a director, that must give you a lift, because when you know that they've got that mongrel, and if they are chilled and whatever, that's great on the bus. That's what you need. You don't want a leader that's highly strung, so it makes your job a bit easier.
Yeah. And like I'm also like, that my style of leadership is a bit the same, like where I'm also, I don't think I'm highly strung, I think I'm pretty laid back. But when it comes to the race, like I show that I'm focused, and that I'm motivated, and I want the team to be successful. So yeah, it resonates with me quite a bit. And they're kind of easy to deal with, like guys like that, because it's they're not going to get caught up in all the bullshit, and they're not going to complain, and they're not going to get like whinge about things that don't go their way. They just want to win, and if the shit hits the fan, they'll find a way to do it themselves. So it's cool to have leaders like that. I like the leaders. That type of leadership resonates with me.
Talking about characters that are wound up, how's our old mate George Bennett going? I was impressed with his classics, and his form looked good. And I think at Flesh, I thought when he hit the final climb and he was thereabouts, I thought, holy shit! Here goes Bennett.
I said to George after the race, I said, the only bad thing about you starting that climb in the front was there was more people to pass you.
That would have went down like a cup of hot sick.
But no, George has had a great season, man. Yeah, really good. He's an inspiration, that dude. Like Jesus, he's like when I was his age, I was like, get me out of the sport ASAP, or get me out of riding my bike. George is like, he's like an 18-year-old kid who's just got to Europe. He's like, He's a really good lead by example guy on our team. Like he works hard. His work ethic's always high, and like you need people like that in the team. And he's had a good start to the year. Obviously, he won the nationals, which was cool. And then he's performed well in Europe this year. He performed well at Catalonia. So he was in Tenerife last week as well, and he's racing in Dauphiné next week, and on path for the Tour if all things go well.
The other guy I really was impressed with in Cadell's, and I was not surprised 1 iota to see him win a stage of Catalonia, and that is Brady Gilmore. I love that guy because he's got mongrel. He's massive. A mad dog.
I love that.
I love it. Yeah. He just takes no shit. He doesn't get out of my way sort of rider. I love it.
Oh, I love it, mate. He's awesome to work with. And I was talking to someone about him yesterday. I said, like, we've got to make the most of how Brady is now because as he starts to understand the sport more and be more successful, and he'll inevitably everybody will change a little bit because you start to understand the sport more. But like at the moment, he's so green, he's just like so genuine, and he's just like, yeah, I'm going to that Dauphiné. Like, I think it's pretty hard, eh? Like people told me like they use it for the Tour de France, like for the prep. Like I don't know, eh? I just fucking go there and get stuck in. Like I just love it, And he's
for the punters that don't know who he is. He's basically come from motocross. And he was doing really well, and then COVID hit, and he was like, shit, he couldn't, because he was over racing in the States, wasn't he, for motocross or whatever?
Yep.
And then he shifted to road racing, loved it, and, mate, he's just fast-tracked the process pretty quick, and even at Cadell's race, he ran third, and you can learn a lot from these riders from talking with their parents, and he comes from Kalgoorlie, like, remote part of Western Australia, so he's real green, but mad dog. Like they build him tough out there. And his dad's reaction, instead of being like, your first big 1 day race and you've got on the podium, he's like, mate, you could have fucking won that.
Man, he's
awesome.
Honestly, he's awesome. I love working with him. I did the Ardennes with him. It was just like, it makes me feel young, Like he's just no bullshit. And he's obviously super talented, but he's a killer. Like he's got that. Like I remember that time on the Social Distance podcast when we spoke about the X Factor, and George was like, "Nah, X Factor's bullshit." Like I still believe in it. Like he's got it, man. He's a winner. And as he starts to understand the sport more and work things out, he's going to win a lot of bike races. And the most exciting thing about Brady is he's so far from his ceiling. There's so much that he can do there. And that will all just come with experience and understanding and all of that stuff. But like once those pieces of the puzzle start to click with him, mate, he'll be unstoppable.
I love the fact what you said. Yeah, this Dauphiné, they reckon it's a leading for the Tour. Mate, I've never ridden a bike professionally in my life. I know that. Everyone knows it. But I love the fact he's that green. That gives him awesome. The edge.
Yeah.
Gives him the edge.
That's awesome. Like he's not afraid of anything because he's not experienced it,
That's it. And he doesn't fear anyone. Like he doesn't go to a start line and go, oh yeah, look at this rider. He looks at other people going, they're going to be my victims. I'm going to knife them all. Yeah, Let's go.
Yeah.
No, that's
awesome.
Fantastic.
I love the kiddo. He's a legend.
Yeah. Good stuff, Bills. Well, geez, it's been good checking in, mate. And as I said, we'll probably have to talk to George and see if he's keen to fire the social distance potty up again, mate, because I get so many people whenever I see him going, when are you doing a pod? It's dried up a little bit lately, but for a good 6 months there, it was relentless.
Yeah, I think people have given up on us, but the element of surprise will be good.
That's the X factor we talk about. The X factor is we also don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, any nuggets you want to leave us with before we wrap things up? Like any riders that people maybe not know about that you've seen enough in your spreadsheets to go, keep an eye on this one. This is one that's going to pop out.
There's a few out there. probably.
Yeah. Fair enough.
No, I don't know. No, we got some good young. We got some good young guys in our team. Our team's looking good for next year as well. And, so yeah.
And how handy is the tour starting in Barca? Like normally you have to do those flights, logistics, or whatever. You're obviously in Andorra. What was it, 2.5 hour drive?
Yeah, it's a dream, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be better if it finished in Barca because then you don't have the long trip home with the hangover.
Oh yeah, but you get on the train, can't you? Get on that fast train.
Yeah, true. Just keep the ball rolling. Get a couple of cans for the train. And
that's it.
Let the hangover hit when you're at home.
Yeah. All right, mate. Thanks for checking in. And
cheers for having me.
Get on the NSN train. Get on Binny for the Tour de France if you're watching this. And if you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss cracking episodes like this interview with Bills. And we'll check in again maybe during the tour, mate, if you need a mental reset.
I won't be busy, so be fine.
You'll get AI to do all your spreadsheets and that. You'll have easy time.
True. I'll get AI to do the podcast.
That's right. Go on, mate.
All right, cheers, Jonesy.